Hello and welcome to Pump the Brakes. I'm Michael, that's Dave, and we're going to the Super Bowl. We are going to the Super Bowl. Dave,
Incredible. I mean, just incredible, man. All I could think about is just like reflecting on where this team and organization was a little over a year ago. Second consecutive 4-win season, a know-nothing coach. You fire that staff. You're gonna have a third staff in 3 years. A draft class that outside of the number 3 pick, who anyone with a brain could have selected at that spot. The entire draft class was already a bust that year. And sort of like to think how far away it seemed. I mean, the quarterback always had the potential he had, but to think how far away this was from being attainable and that we're here, just crazy, man. Crazy.
it's insane. I think it's probably the single greatest turnaround in NFL history.
They are the first team in NFL history to lose 13 plus games and go to the Super Bowl that next year. So it
It's
speaks
unheard
for
of.
itself. I mean, even just thinking back to week 1 and how far they've come. You know what this team looked like against the Raiders in that first game and what Drake May looked like, and they have come so far in such little time that, it's just crazy. We're going to the Super Bowl, and you saw it before I did. I mean, you genuinely thought there was a chance that they could do this, and I think the Buffalo game on the road, Sunday Night Football, was probably the first glimmer that a lot of us had that, like, oh shit, this team might be capable of making some noise.
Yeah, like we hung, right? We were coming off, what were we, 2-2 going into that game? Bad losses to
Yeah.
dog shit teams. Like we might have been 1-2.
It was
We'd
week
lost to
5,
the
so we were
Raiders,
2-2, I think.
2-2. We'd lost to the Raiders. We'd
Yeah,
lost to the Steelers. We had beaten the Dolphins.
yeah, and I believe Carolina.
And yeah, the Panthers, which in retrospect, one of our better victories somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
anyway, the schedule did great.
yeah. It did it. The schedule did its job, and like, I mean, I don't know. To me, the Vrabel quote at the end of this game, it resonated with me because the name of this show is Pump the Brakes, and by nature, I am someone who, like, show me before I believe it. And he said sometimes you just have to believe something before you see it. And it's so true. That's what this team is. Like, they bought in. They believed it before they saw the fruits of that devotion, of that labor. And like, I'm a firm believer in like the psychological power of actualization. Like, when you think about and you envision yourself doing something, completing it successfully and achieving or attaining the goal, I really do believe there is power psychologically in that. And I think it's evident in this team and his approach with this locker room.
It's evident, and it's what good coaching gives your players. It is the boost. It is that tangible. It is that measurable. It is that when people say he has a well coached, he pushes his players to get the best out of them. That's what they mean.
Yeah,
It's
I
not just like
agree.
X's and O's or technique. It's the belief that, right, it's a game of inches, and if you can add an inch or two, it's
Yeah, and
everything.
it's the collective buy-in too. It's like I've heard people say it. I was listening to Julian Edelman's podcast, and he had Terrell Suggs on there, and they asked him, Suggs, what makes like a true Raven, And he's talking about how in those good locker rooms, it was when you knew the guy next to you was as committed to you and the whole as you were to him in the whole. And that's what Edelman goes, that's it. That's what makes a championship team is when you're accountable to the guy next to you for everything you do on and off the field. And this team has it, and it's driven by the coach. So, this cultural turnaround is just it's spectacular on and off the field, like in the locker room and on the field. Just what a
Yeah.
group.
And there are no more breaks to pump. I mean, actually, honestly, there are a lot of breaks to pump. This Seattle
Well,
team
yes.
is terrifying.
So
We
next
will
week,
get to it.
right.
We will
The
get to it.
plan is next week to do a full Super Bowl preview. So if you're watching this will primarily be just an AFC Championship breakdown. Doing a lot of work on the Seattle team, and we'll get you informed next week on it. And there will be some break pumping because it's a good Seattle team. It's the best team you've played all year. So
Yeah, which makes sense. It's
yeah,
appropriate.
right.
The final boss.
Yeah. And so, like, before we get into this AFC title game, I did want to we've had like an increase in viewership because, as you put it to me, when the Pats win, we win. And people are obviously more interested in this team because of how far they've gotten. And so, I'm thankful that more people have given us a chance and tuned in. And I hope that what we're providing is entertaining and also informative. I think we try to provide like a really high level understanding of the game, but something that's palatable to all levels of interest. And thankful for them and thankful for you. You pushed me to do this podcast, and you believed that my voice in combination with your voice could provide something to people and was worth recording. And so I'm very grateful for you and for pushing me out of my comfort zone to put this together. I mean, it has made an incredible Patriots season so much more incredible to be dive into the details like this and learn so much each week, and to have this place to come and talk with you, and sort of have a central repository for all of these thoughts and conversations. I'm incredibly thankful for that as well. So thank you.
Really glad, man. This has been so much fun.
I agree. I agree. Enough of that bullshit. Let's break down this AFC
Yeah,
Championship game. And
let's talk about how far up Mike Vrabel's ass that lucky horseshoe is.
it's crazy, man. It's just something else. Hopefully it keeps going. But
I love that we also, and it's also like we got to play Jarrett Stidham, who I could make an argument is the boogeyman. He's representative of all of our failures over the last 6-7 years, right? We drafted Stidham, Brady left, it all went to shit, and now on the edge of greatness, our enemy, our foe, is a shadow of ourselves, the garbage we used to be.
yeah, there's poetry in sort of how that worked out, that of all people you see, he wasn't an important part, but he was a part in a central way of like sort of the unevenness
I
of
will
the
tell
post
you
Brady era.
exactly what he was to me. He was the first false hope post Brady for me. I was like, we're good. We have Jarrett Stidham. I remember going back and watching like a hype reel of his like high school days, and I'm like, this guy might be like a winner.
Yeah, and low key frustrating that like halfway through that season with Cam Newton that Belichick just refused to put him in and even see what he had. So
It was yeah, exactly.
it was a weird time, but we're not saddled with Jared Stidham. We're saddled, not saddled. We're graced with a much better quarterback in Drake May. And so, I mean, we could talk about the way he played in this game, and there's some break pumping there. I mean, listen, in evaluating the way he played and being critical of it, and really the offense generally in this game, after the first two drives of the third quarter, none of that shit is something you can draw any conclusions from. It was a
Irrelevant.
wash. Right. After like the second possession of the third quarter, it's run, punt, get stops. Like that's the
Yeah,
whole game.
yeah.
So a lot of this is confined to the earlier part of the game, but I would say as a thrower of the football, strictly as a thrower of the football, this was one of Drake May's worst games of the year, and it was his worst game of this playoff run as a thrower of the football.
Yes,
I think from Jump Street,
obviously.
yeah, he was sped up, he was inaccurate, he was jittery, he was indecisive.
His footwork was terrible.
His footwork was terrible, absolutely, and you can tell with him when he's off, the footwork goes first. He had misses to Stevenson on a check down, Douglas on a hole shot to the sideline. He missed Henry short middle. He missed Booty deep one time on a post route that he was open. And so, his first throw of the game should have been a touchdown the other way. He threw it into traffic. He didn't see Hufanga come back to Diggs on the ball. Hufanga should have picked that off, and if he doesn't fall down, take it to the house, and got lucky that it hit the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't great, but he protected the ball,
He
right?
did. He did. He did the one thing he really needed to do. I would say that is to me how this did. He did enough to win. He did enough
Yeah,
to not lose the game, and he did enough to win, and that's why this picture is here.
yeah,
This
he
is
did
what
his job.
he won the. This is him when he took the ball in his hands and he won the game.
He
As a
managed the game,
thrower,
but there's
no, but on as a runner,
the idea of a game manager has become a pejorative in sports talk, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with managing a game effectively if that's what the game requires you to do. And I think he did that, and we talked about it last week. The number one thing he cannot do is put the ball in harm's way. There was so much luck of the bounce in that Texans game that you cannot survive on those margins and that luck week to week. And so credit to him and credit to Stevenson. Both of those guys kept the ball in the Patriots' hands and didn't put it on the ground. That, to me, that was the number one ask, and he delivered on that. So happy there.
you're right.
It did.
You're 100% correct.
I did think he took like so. So the Broncos played better zone defense than I thought they were going to. They weren't as over aggressive as I thought they might be. They played more zone than they traditionally do. But I did think that some of the sacks May took, and not surprisingly, given sort of how off he was, were his fault. There was one on the third drive where he's got sort of a boot action, and it's him and the defender one on the edge, and you either got to throw it, make a move on him, or throw the ball away, and he takes a sack instead. I thought he had Mac Hollins potentially open against cover four, which is zone in the middle of the field. The next drive, Morgan Moses gets beat. He steps up, he takes a sack. I thought he might have had Hunter Henry open there again. So there were some coverage sacks. There were some plays where it was just May, I think, was indecisive and maybe overly analyzing keeping the ball safe, which, you know what, whatever. I'll take that at the end of the day because this defense played the way it did against a quarterback that it could take advantage of. So, um, credit to Denver. I thought they played good, solid, safe defensive coverage, and but Drake May did settle into this game in the middle third of the game, I think, with his legs, which really helped open things up enough, and that
Yeah,
became a
that
huge weapon in this game.
that third quarter drive it felt like we'd unlocked something in that Broncos defense. We had figured out, all right, okay, listen, we can't throw on them. It's just not happening today, but we can run on them.
Yeah, yeah, and they didn't really have an answer for it. And it was interesting because in Seth Wickersham's article about this game, like he said, Denver's game plan centered around turnovers and containing Drake May, and they didn't get either of those things. There was no contain on May. He carried the ball for 10 times for 65 yards and a touchdown, including icing the game on that third down run. So, and they got no turnovers out of it. So they
Yeah,
they failed in that sense.
you're 100% correct.
I will say, to state the obvious, if he plays like he has in any of these three games in the Super Bowl, it's not going to be enough. You're only relying on an absolute dumpster fire performance from Sam Darnold at that point, and I'm not going to rule that out. It's always a possibility, but he's been very good on balance the last 2 years, and so I don't think you can bet on that happening, even though the possibility exists.
Yeah, you're right, and we will cover that next week.
Yes.
We will discuss his possibilities. I will say he won the game. I think it was such a playoff moment. It was such an icon. This is such an iconic moment for me.
Yeah.
Him
I
just
mean,
calling his shot and just not know everyone else going one way, and Drake said, "Nah,
and he was so fired up. I don't know if you heard the mic'd
that's how
up
you
from this
do it.
week.
That's how you
Yeah.
do it."
He was in the huddle and he was like emotional. He was fired up. He was getting his guys ready to go. One more first down, like come on, one more. And like you don't hear him leave sort of an even keel ever. And he was fired up there and it was great to see. It was a huge moment for him, huge moment for this team. So I'll give him credit there. Offensively, generally, you couldn't run the ball. You couldn't run the ball consistently at all. Stevenson had a couple of good runs there, a couple of 10-yard runs, but they were consistently losing at the line of scrimmage, I thought, run blocking. Denver's linebackers did a really great job of filling rush lanes quickly, to not allow a gap for the running back to burst through. The offensive line was okay. Morgan Moses, this was his worst game of the playoffs, in my opinion. He gave up a sack there. Bradbury and Onwenu, I think, were your two best offensive linemen in this game. And
Yeah, for
then,
sure.
Wilson was better in the pass than the run. There were still some of those issues with the point of attack and functional strength. Will Campbell was, I was all over him last week. He was all right in this game. I'll give him, he was all right. He kept Nick Benito quiet, which is a win. I mean, that's a great pass rusher. He didn't have any sacks on Drake May in this game. That's awesome. A few pressures on Will Campbell's side. There was a bad cut block attempt that's going around online. I don't think it was as bad as it might look it was. It
It's
was
a
not
little late. It's
effective,
just
but
I listen. I
so this play, we're going to talk about a play in the Broncos game that should have been a touchdown if Will Campbell, I guess, knew the play, in my opinion. It seems like he didn't know what he was doing. He ran the same play successfully against the New York Jets a few weeks back. It's like a scissors concept to the running back, trying to get him one-on-one with the edge defender. I'll pause it here. The goal of this play is to isolate this edge defender right here on the running back, one-on-one in coverage. So you're not going to block him because he's either going to cover him down the field in a mismatch, or he's going to be a free rusher, which is even better because that means no one's covering the running back. Easy. You have the linebacker coming in here. Looks like these two guys are going to blitz. Look at that, though. See that little arm flick there by Vidarian Lowe? little communication that like you go, I think it means you go inside on him. I got this guy because they know don't block this guy. We're down, blocking down here and we're leaving these two together. And so, there's no stunt or anything on the inside, pretty straightforward. But as you see, mismatch, wide open touchdown, boom. Okay. Here's the play against the Broncos. What's going to happen here that is a little different is this defender right here, number 93. He's going to try to cross Garrett Bradbury's face into the opposite A gap, and they're in cover zero. So the linebackers are blitzing. Dre Greenlaw here is they're going to run a stunt, and he's going to loop
Mm.
around into this A gap. Creates a real pickle here for Garrett Bradbury. Two guys, one crossing his face, one looping around that could come and get the quarterback. Jared Wilson notices it in the middle of the play. Here's Nick Benito. He is the equivalent of that defender from the Jets game in coverage. You want him one-on-one with Ramondre Stevenson in coverage, or even better, like I said, don't block him and he'll come free rush and he'll be wide open. So here you see Jared Wilson recognizes there's a stunt here. Something's going on. This guy's coming. I got to pinch inside to help Garrett Bradbury out. Now, I think it's the right decision. It's not the most effective blocking, not super consequential to the outcome of the play. But here you see Will Campbell. His first instinct is to take a step outside. Why are you blocking outside? The design of this
Right.
play is that Benito isn't blocked. And so when Jared, and you saw that communication with Lowe, if you caught it in the Jets
I
game,
did.
no communication here. No communication. Wilson does the right thing, but Campbell's got to pinch inside too because now nobody is blocking Malcolm Roach. He's unabated to the quarterback. And so Drake May has no fucking chance to let Stevenson get out into his route and deliver a ball with touch. He's dead to rights. And Stevenson hasn't beat. I mean, credit to Benito, he's hauling ass, but Stevenson hasn't beat. If he throws a better ball, that's
Yeah.
six. And it's all because Will Campbell doesn't block anybody. He's out there, he's standing out there and he doesn't touch anyone. He's on an island unto himself. And so, um, it's little things like that to me. It's not just physical, it's not strictly injury. The kids just got to play better at the end of the day. And that's a touchdown in a 3-point game where you scored only one all day. And that, the game could have been over much earlier in that sense. So it wasn't perfect, put it that way.
You're right.
I didn't love some of the third and fourth down play calling. That was a little weird too. There was that sneak attempt that they got the first down, but I mean, what a stupid play that was. They bring in Tonga and Williams as blockers, two guys who don't play offense. Tonga sometimes is in there as a fullback. Milton Williams is never out there. They don't know where to line up, so you burn a timeout to figure out where to line so they can figure out the play. Then they line up correctly and they don't affect the play at all. They're not even near Drake May when he's going over the middle to rush on the fourth. So it's just like, what is this play call? You burned a timeout for it. It didn't make a ton of sense. And there
He
were some
didn't really
third
make it
downs.
either.
Yeah, he maybe didn't make it. Not for me to decide. But yeah, I don't know. So it's like there was a 3rd and 5 where they threw 3 yards short of the sticks to Henry. There was a 3rd and 7 where they chose to run. I mean, later in the game, of course, as we mentioned with the conditions, it was just like we're surrendering on 3rd down anyways. But just some weird, wonky play calling on some higher leverage downs, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Ramondre Stevenson is a blocker. I thought that was where he was really effective in this game. He had a big blitz pickup on the flea flicker, which was May's best
Yeah,
pass of the
huge
game,
pass
to
of the game.
Hollins. He had a big block on the 28-yard scramble by Drake May as well. And so, he was effective there, and that's why he's on the field as much as he is because he's an effective blocker.
Yeah, how great was it? I mean, what, Henderson had 4 plays? Stevenson's been carrying this team through the playoffs. But how great is it having Mike Hollins back?
Awesome, dude. And I thought he played well, all things considered, with like the general level of production in this game. I thought he was open more than he saw the ball as well. So, it's really important to have him back, especially because, you got to get a little bit more out of Hunter Henry and Stephon Diggs than you have these last 2 games. Henry, I didn't feel particularly sharp in this game to me. He dropped a pass. He wasn't a very good blocker in this game. Diggs caught 5 balls, but it's all of this sort of short stuff in the middle of the field. I'd love to see them get him more vertical again and challenging defenses down the field a little bit more. It's easy to defend him when everything is within 3, 4 yards. And so that's something I'd like to see in the Super Bowl is maybe a little bit more downfield presence in Diggs's
Yeah,
routes. Like we said, the weather in the second half really became the story. I think Garrett Bradbury said it was the worst conditions he's ever played in. And so it was, run the clock, like I said, run the clock, hold on to the ball, get stops. It wasn't it wasn't great. You would have liked to score again in that second half. You had 4 possessions with a chance to make it a 2-score game. Missed field goal, punt, punt, punt. Not great, but you had to live within the weather restriction.
I'm glad that Vrabel chose to take the points where he did. I think that was very important.
Yeah, and that's a key point when we talk about the defense. I mean, generally this game, I think the better coached team won. That was part of the story of this game, was that the Patriots were more well coached at the end of the day, situationally, tactically, and that was the big part of the difference in this one. So yeah, I mean, I think it's been underrated up until now. People are starting to talk about it with the Seahawks on the other end. Like the defensive gauntlet this team has gone up against offensively in these playoffs is pretty crazy. So, another great defense off the board.
Exactly. Another great defense off the board.
And
Good thing
speaking
we
of
had that
great
easy schedule.
defenses, speaking of great
Ooh,
defenses, our
you mean the
defense,
best defense in the playoffs?
maybe Seattle, but Seattle has surrendered more points to the
Yeah,
Rams than we have in any of these games. But
yeah. What are you talking about? So the MVP pretender Matthew Padfew Stafford.
that's your MVP, not mine.
That's your
I
MVP,
say that
not
as
my
Drake
MVP.
May throws for like 60 yards or something in the game, but hey, he won.
MVP one. Quarterback not equal to thrower sometimes.
Not
Quarterback
always,
of the
not
ball.
always.
Didn't make
Quarterback
mistakes.
of the
Finished the
team.
game.
Yep,
Quarterback of the team has legs. Okay, let's
yep,
talk about our
and he
defense,
knows how to
Dave.
use them.
Let's talk about the defense that showed up. The defense that awoke in the
Yeah, I
playoffs.
mean, again, yeah, just to reiterate from like last week, I think how crazy it is like that this team it was sort of defense at first, very early in the season, and then it was Drake May show the rest of the way, and now we're back to hoping the offense can sort of complement the defense as it plays the way it has, sort of lights out, which is, as I said before, I didn't see coming, and it's just what a performance they've had, and this was another one. We talked about stopping the run to put pressure on Jared Stidham, and they stifled the run game in this game yet again. It was 63
Slow
yards on
start
20
as
attempts.
usual.
So three. Yeah, slow start. I thought Sean Payton called a good game early where they took advantage of unpressured downs and they drew up some nice like screen. There was a screen pass that could have gone for 6 on a blitz play by the Patriots, but it was just a bad throw by Stidham, and I think it was Mims couldn't reel it in or whatever. So like the play
Yeah,
designs were
I saw
there
that.
early in the game. Yeah, so I would say that like, but for the on balance, and especially later in the game, the pressure that they put on Stidham just crushed him. He couldn't handle it.
They talked about is that they like looked at a bunch of wave and watched all the footage of Jared Stidham playing, and he noticed that this guy has not had to deal with much blitzing in his entire playing career, limited as it is.
Yeah,
And
no
he
doubt.
crumbled.
And
He
I mean
crumbled
they
under the
brought it.
pressure.
Yeah, I mean to stifle the run, you had players like Chason and Jennings and Tonga and Durden and Marcus Jones, like all those guys to me popped in the run game. Chason made some great plays against screen passes, blowing those up. There was a run where he chased down from the backside of the formation, which was really impressive. And one of the things of note going into that game was the difference between that offensive line and the offensive lines you had seen in the previous 2 rounds. And I thought they kind of kicked the shit out of that Broncos offensive line, to be honest with you, which has 2 first-team All-Pros on it. Christian Barmore kind of owns Quinn Meinerz, who's the right guard in Denver. He was sort of a coming out party for him a couple of years ago in that game in Denver, Barmore that is, where he owned Meinerz then. He did it again with the same swim move over him in this game. And so it was really impressive, and it allowed them to win the game by putting everything on Stidham's shoulders. He had 37 dropbacks. He was pressured on 36% of those dropbacks. Per next gen stats, when Stidham was under pressure, he was 1 for 10 for 4 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. So, I mean, even if those pressures didn't directly relate to a sack or a turnover, that's a good chunk of the game when he's dropping back to pass, 10 plays out of 37. And so I think they've constantly found ways to heat quarterbacks up in this playoff run, which is impressive.
I think it's a big credit to Zach Kerr in particular.
Zach Kerr, and also like nobody knows these guys' names on balance, but like Clint McMillan and Mike Smith, that's the defensive line coach and the outside linebackers coach. This defensive line in particular has been so good all year. They love to rotate guys, and when every guy in your rotation is a good solid player, is coached up and plays really well, like when you can go to a guy like Durden and rest on him to be one of your top defensive tackles for stretches of this season, I mean, that's a testament to the coaching, in my opinion. So kudos to those guys. The defensive line dominated this game. Stidham had no time on that, on that backwards pass that with a fumble that they recovered. They overloaded one side of the field. The running back couldn't get out there to leak because it was just so overwhelming to catch the pass because they just swarmed. And, Milton Williams, he has six what they call quick pressures in the playoffs so far, which are pressures in under 2.5 seconds. The only player since 2016, which is the start of the next gen stats era, to have more is Aaron Donald. So good company to be in. Yeah.
Milton Williams,
I also
he
don't know
really,
what
really
happened.
earning that bag.
Every penny of it he's earned. He's been indispensable. He's been the second most important player potentially, I think, next to Drake May this season. I think you saw the difference in what this, and I wanted to believe that it was more systemic than it was the loss of a particular player, because usually it is. But no, man, like he has been the difference in this defense between it being mediocre and being like at the top of the league. He's been that good, in my opinion. So
And we could tell. I mean, he was out. We were bad. He came back. We're historic again.
yeah, you don't have to be a ball knower or a tape grinder to see the difference that Milton Williams makes when he's on the field. It's very
He
apparent. And
elevates everyone else around him as well.
also, on that backwards pass, I don't know what the refs were doing there because I didn't hear a whistle, first of all. They let the play out. Gene Steratore comes into the broadcast and goes, "They did the right thing. They let the play out. That's what they're trained to do." They go to the review. They say it's a fumble, but the play was dead. And then Gene Steratore comes back on and goes, "Yep, that's right. They blew the play dead, so you got to call it there." It's like, Gene, you just said they did the right thing by not blowing it dead. So frustrating. That should have been a touchdown in my opinion, but whatever.
Yeah, I remember I saw I think if you looked at the mic'd up recording of it, you do hear a whistle. I
Okay.
think the
All right. Fair
CBS
enough.
broadcast fucked up.
Well then, sorry,
Hey,
Gene. Although I do think,
no, sorry, Gene. He's
yeah.
just
I mean,
talk.
I
He's
think,
yapping.
yeah, that's what these they had now this thing the last few years where they want to have the referee analyst come in, and all the referee analyst does is basically change his opinion to agree with the referees as the play and review unfolds. It's just like, dude, it's so useless. Just more grab ass on the broadcast. But that's a aside on just the nonsense there. You lost Robert Spillane in this game. That sucks. You survived it. I hope he's back for the Super Bowl. Ankles are tricky, so we'll see. I haven't heard anything one way or another. I know he wasn't at practice today. This is the Thursday, the week before the Super Bowl, so we'll see how that goes. But a ton of man coverage in this game, which was interesting. They played man on 48% of dropbacks by Denver, almost 20% more than their regular season average. So I think that's a sign that they felt pretty comfortable that Jarrett Stidham and what was left of the Broncos pass catchers were not really a threat to beat them head to head or one on one in man coverage. So Stidham was 6 for 15, 36 yards, interception, and a fumble against man coverage.
Yeah,
There was the one
I.
touchdown. No, go ahead.
I mean,
Sorry.
listen. We were saying, Stiddy's ready. Stiddy's ready. Stiddy was not ready.
No, and I felt a lot of the narrative around him heading into this game was really people wanting to imagine Nick Foles. It's like so much of the discourse around Stidham was stimulated by a guy who he isn't and who wasn't playing in that game. And so it was
Yeah,
like you're really betting on something that you've never, I guess,
I
can't,
mean,
believe something before you see it,
you
as a wise coach once said, but that
you
was too
play
bad.
the quarterback that you play. But do you think Bo Nix wins the Broncos this game?
I think there's a good chance. I think because at the end of the game, the margin in this game was holding onto the ball, Sean Payton kicking a field goal, which we haven't touched on yet, but like kick the field goal. You got a backup quarterback in here. I don't know if you're aware of the weather forecast, but he certainly became aware of it. This is like a fight to like 13 points early in this game, and he left three on the board by going for it, which was also a great play by the Patriots. Milton Williams again, he blew that play up. Craig Woodson played it perfectly in coverage. It was like a new coverage for them that they weren't aware of, them being the Broncos. And so, yeah, a boneheaded decision not to kick the field goal there. I do think, like I said, that circle back to Nick's, like it was the two turnovers. It was the inability to throw at all. He's not as mobile as Nix. I think maybe if Nix is playing, he has an ability to extend plays in a way that Drake May did later in that game, get you back in field goal territory
Yeah,
where you couldn't run if you're you being Denver. Like if Denver couldn't run, they certainly couldn't throw. And so, like, how do you get back downfield absent? And we can talk about special teams too, because it's worth it. But absent dog shit like field position or a good field position because of dog shit punts by the Patriots. So there was the one long pass play early in the game. It seems like people are pretty split on whose responsibility what that was. I saw it's Gonzalez, it's cover four. So if it's cover four, Gonzalez has his deep quarter. That's his man essentially. And I've seen other people say it was cover two. And on a post, it's the job of Hawkins to come over and supplement there and support Gonzalez. I think watching the way Gonzalez sort of slow played that route a little bit, it felt to me like he was expecting safety help there. And so either way, it's an example of a blown coverage by lack of communication, which, you know, we've seen throughout the year. You know, you can't have it. It can kill you in a game.
yeah.
It led to seven a play or two later.
But we survived it and we
Survived
won.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, you're gonna have to play better against the Seahawks. Everyone's gonna have to bring their A game, but you have 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah, and the coaching advantage was on display again in on the interception by Stidham, which really sort of sealed the game, giving the Patriots the ball back there. Because the Broncos, they substitute on that play, and you know if you substitute offensive personnel, the defense has the right to substitute their personnel. And the Patriots took their sweet ass time substituting their personnel, which left Stidham with just seconds to snap the ball. And he sort of Gonzalez had to read the whole way. He pops it up a little rainbow to catch, but just more sort of manipulating the rules a little bit, not in a bad way, in a good way, which Vrabel is known for doing, and it helped this team out big time in that instance there. I thought an interesting stat that came out of this week was that for the postseason, out of all defenders, the defenders with the lowest target EPA, so expected points added by a receiving target who they are covering, the lowest in the entire postseason, in order. Number one, Christian Gonzalez. Number two, Carlton Davis. Number three, Craig Woodson. Which, if you told me back in week 7 or 8 that Craig Woodson, along with your other two corners, would be one of the most effective coverage defenders in the NFL playoffs, I would have been absolutely stunned. I would have been less surprised if my head was sewn to the carpet in the morning. Ball security was a difference. You protected the ball. They didn't protect the ball. Your
That
coaching
really
was
made
better
the whole
than theirs.
difference. It made
That
the
was
whole
the game.
difference. It made the whole game. It's simple, simple, easy peasy. Not that
Special
complicated.
teams, Special teams became important in the second half in particular. Borregales was one of three. I don't hold the 63-yarder against him. I mean, that was a matter of the clock. You know, no one actually puts their kicker in position to kick a 63-yarder and should expect for them to make it, in my opinion. So I don't hold that one against him. Hell of a play by Leonard Taylor to get a fingertip on
Huge.
little nuts
Huge.
kick attempt there late in the game. And your punter, Bryce Baringer, was fucking awful, in my opinion. He was bad. I mean, he kept the ball away from Mims as a returner, which was huge because in a game like that, I think a change of direction play could just be, a touchdown. He cuts on one defender, and with the footing of the field, with those conditions, he could have been gone. So that's a positive. That's the number one goal. But a 26-yard punt, a 33-yard punt. I mean, in the words of Bill Belichick, I could get Johnny fucking Foxborough to come out here and kick it 26 yards. So
Point. A
that's
really good point.
that's a problem for the offseason, I suppose. But you know, the Broncos, if they kick a field goal, if they take a sack instead of fumbling, they don't throw a pick, maybe they win this game. Tough toenails, that's life. But Patriots go to the Super Bowl, Broncos go home.
The Jets.
And fuck the Jets. I mean, just like a quick sort of high level on Seattle, real quick. I just to give a brief overview, some of the key things in my head, at least, before I really dive deep into them. They are sixth all time in DVOA. So DVOA, we've mentioned a few times on this podcast. It's sort of like a
Get there.
composite. They're historic. It's a composite advanced statistic that shows basically your productivity relative to the league and relative to your strength of schedule. It combines all three units. They're sixth all time by that metric. And so that doesn't mean they will win. Four of the top 12 DVOA teams of all time didn't win the Super Bowl, including the '07 and 2010 Patriots. It just means that they are one of the most complete and productive teams the league is relative to the league this year that the league has seen and to what you're going to see all year. So they are to be respected. They're a very good football team, but they are not unbeatable.
I think
I'm
it's going to come
interested.
down to turning Sam Darnold into a pumpkin.
Yeah, and that's why to me, at least early, before I've really, like I said, before a deep dive on this team, Milton Williams and Christian Barmore are so important in this game coming up. I mean, obviously Milton Williams always important, but like my cursory knowledge of Seattle is like their interior offensive linemen are an area of attack. They have good tackle play, their guard play, center play. They have a really good rookie guard, but their right guard and their center, I think you can take advantage of. And so Darnold suffers with interior pressure. Get him off his spot, get him rattled early. And then I'm fascinated to see what they do with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't know how they're going to
Yeah.
match up with him. Does Gonzalez follow him? Do you do your sort of traditional Gonzalez on one side, Davis on the other, wherever he ends up? Marcus Jones in the slot? I don't know, but I'm
I have
fascinated to see that.
nothing but faith in this coaching staff to figure it out.
Yeah, I have
Listen, we're the
fed.
dogs. We're the dogs. No one believes in us.
This is
7.5 point
exactly where I
dogs.
want them to be.
Yeah. It's 2001 again, man. We just won a low scoring game in the snow, and now we are the underdogs. We have a new coach, a new quarterback. We're the underdogs against the best of the NFC West.
Yeah, my unsolicited advice to fans is like bask in this week coming up, this Super Bowl week. I have been in the past, when we lived in the Brady era, there was such an anxiety, in my opinion, about these games because it was like win every one you can while you can. And for a 10-year stretch, it was like just win one again,
Right.
to where like you invest in the Super Bowl week, and then if they, I remember the Super Bowl 42 is the biggest instance to me, like watching pregame all day, and I'm in middle school, but thinking about all the historic things on the line, and like, oh, this is going to be so great, and basking in all of it, and then the heartbreak, and it's like I'm never fucking doing that again, putting all that energy and emotion into like pregame nonsense. But to your point about the '01 team, you will never get this team again. This upstart 4-win, never should have been here. First year with the coach, ascendance of the quarterback into the upper echelon of the league, ragtag group of free agent veterans coming in. You will never have this 2025 Patriots team as you've experienced it and the sort of the fun that comes with it ever again. So enjoy the
Yeah.
ride, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, like as Ben Johnson said, it's like every year's a new team. There's no building on the last year. No, this is it. Like we just need to enjoy this week.
Yeah.
Like
And
ignore anything else that's going on in your life. Cut it down. Pump those
absolutely.
brakes.
This is all that matters, all right? You have a
Exactly. This is the
discrete one game window where immortality is on the
is
table.
at
A brick
stake.
is
It's
on the
at
table. Yeah. So enjoy it,
yeah,
have
man.
fun. This is a fun team. And like I said, we'll never get a team quite like this with this group, this quarterback and coach combo again. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to diving into the Seahawks, learning more about Mike McDonald and his defense. We'll
We'll
inform
see
you
you all
all
next
next
week.
week. Yep. Go Pats.
Go Pats!